Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today we're going to repair this Dragon Wing. I forgot where this kit goes to. Some of you guys might know who it goes to. The person that dropped it off to me, they mentioned what it was, but it slipped my mind. But that's not really important right now. We got to repair it. So you can see over here there's a crack and a chip in the wing, and then we have also a little bit of a mark over here. This is sort of, even though this seems like an easy repair, we have to match up the texture the best we can, and you have to be very, very careful with the rest of the wing. This is not something I could just go into the garage and kind of just like manhandle it. Well, not manhandle it, but be able to like, you know, go in there, do some Dremel work, this, and that, and also like when I'm ready to start working on it, I can't really, you know, have it laying down like this because we got the little hands here with the fingernails, so you have to be very careful. And then also, you know, if I pull it this way, I got to be careful of this part over here if I pull it this way. So like throughout the whole entire item, it's very, very delicate. So this is one of those things where I have to take my time, but also match it up as best as I can. Now, the guy that dropped it off, a really nice guy and everything, he was really concerned about shipping it, and I don't blame him. Something like this is very, very sketchy of sending it out to me, like in the mail. If you were to send it in an original box, however big the statue is, just to send the wing, is probably be the safest way. Because if you were to put this in the box, you know, and like ship it, if you don't do it correctly or in a way where it doesn't shift, you might end up with more damages around the whole entire item. So he drove out, dropped it off, which is perfectly fine with repairs, because sometimes, you know, taking a road trip with some gas and tolls is probably less likely to be stress and more damages and cost more money. So that's why we talked, and I said you're more than welcome to drop it off, in this way it's just easier. So with this crack right here, we'll get a little bit closer and I'll kind of explain what I'm going to try to do first, and then afterwards we'll start working on it. So you can see if I was to put eaves here, right, if I was just to put eaves here and I would try to match up this texture, what will happen is it'll push eaves over to the other side. And then if I work on that side, it'll keep going back and forth. So when you have a really flat, you know, surface like this, it's really hard to work eaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a wall. So if this is how thick, just imagine this is how thick the item is. I'm going to build a wall inside the item about that thick up to the point up to here. And then I'll let that cure overnight. And then tomorrow, what I could do is I could come in with eaves and I can match the texture on this side, and I could flip it over and match the texture on that side without having working to go back and forth. What I also did is I went in the garage, because the garage seems to have a better light system in there, where I put this up against my LED lights that are in the garage on the ceiling now, and I made sure there was no spider cracks. So I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't spider cracking down. So I didn't see anything. And I also sometimes too, I have a flashlight. If I do it like at night before I'm ready to close up shop, since it's dark outside, I could shut the lights in the studio or in the garage, and I could put a flashlight here and it could shine up to see if there's any spider cracks. So I didn't see any spider cracks, so that's good. It just seemed like this broke right in this chip and it became sort of a hassle. So I think what I'm going to do is, if it was a little bit thicker, I got that thin brass rod stuff. I don't have a piece right here. It's like brass rods about like that thick, you know. I have these, you know, brass rods like that. If this was a little bit thicker wall, what I would do is I would Dremel it and I would put a brass rod there, glue it in, and then build it out. But I think since this is a little bit thinner, I'm going to go in the garage and Dremel a little here, I'm going to Dremel a little here, and I got a lot of those brass rods, you know, the circle brass rods that are thinner. What I could do is I could put like 2 or 3 of them in here, and then I could just mix up some eaves and sort of just squeeze it onto there and let it cure for the night, and then tomorrow I could come back and do all the texture. Now he mentioned to me it's not a big deal if I don't match the texture, but I said if I'm going to repair it, we're going to do it right. We're going to match the texture as best as possible, and we're going to touch up the paint as best as possible. But there is a little, like I said, there's a little spot over here, a little bit of a spot over here that we're going to touch up with paint too, and there's also a little spot over here we'll touch up. And then looking around, we looked at it, we don't see anything else. I'm not seeing any other damages or anything. Let's see. This one looks like it's glued in. I think these are glued in. I don't think they're attached, but this one here looks like it is cracked, but I think that's a glued in piece. So what I think I'm going to do for him, even though these fingernails have a little bit of smudging on there, so we're going to touch up that paint for him as well. And then let's look at this one over here. As if we're in the camera, I got my headgear on. This looks like it did break, or it didn't glue in correctly. No, it is a little bit broken over here. Yeah. We didn't talk about this, but it is a little bit broken. So I'm going to patch this up for him. I'm not going to, like, try to Dremel around it and rebuild everything. I'm going to Dremel a little bit in here, because it is cracked a little bit there. I don't know if you guys could kind of see it. I'm not really sure. The camera's pretty far away. But I'm going to patch that up for him as well. Like I say, what I usually try to do for people is I go through their items and I figure if there is something else that needs to be touched up, or I will do it for people without telling them from the get-go. I like to kind of focus on what we really want to do, but if I want to mix up some paints, we'll touch this up. And if I mix up a little Aves, it doesn't hurt for me just to put a little Aves in here to kind of seal this up, because it is a little bit cracked over here too, now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, so I think I'm going to Dremel around it a little bit and fix it up. I might as well. Just go ahead and just repair it. No big deal. Try to always go a little bit above and beyond with some of these repairs. And it won't take long anyway, because I'm kind of in the, I'll be in the zone repairing it. Alright, so let me go in the garage. I'm going to go Dremel this out. I'm going to Dremel this out a little bit too. We're going to add our rods. We'll mix up some A's. We'll build the wall there. And then we'll also put some A's around this, and we could touch that up as well. I just got to be very, very, very careful with this. I'm very paranoid with these fingers and stuff. So let me, we'll be right back. Alright, went in the garage and just Dremeled a little bit out. I also Dremeled out here. What happened is when I Dremeled out, it sort of actually broke up a little bit, so it was actually like cracking. But we're going to go ahead and kind of repair that. So this is really thin brass rod. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one piece, because I think that's all I really need. And I'm going to glue it in there. I might have to go back in the garage and do it. Let's see. It's always a back and forth type of thing till I get it to where I want it. It's not, the brass rod is not really there for, like, you know, it's going to seal it perfect. The Aves is going to seal it. This is just to help me build my wall. So we'll kind of cut a little piece off of here. Let's see how this works. This might be the... So basically I'm just going to have to get a little piece like that. It's kind of, I don't know if you guys can see. It's a little bit of a piece up top, somewhat, just to kind of help. So yeah, that should be good. I'm gonna have to use tweezers and stuff. So let's grab some glue. We have the Instaset, but I don't really need the Instaset. We'll use this piece right here. Oh yeah, we might use the Instaset. So, alright. I'm gonna zoom in as best as I can to show you guys. So this is my BSI gel glue. If you guys are collectors of statues, get this gel glue in this type of tube, ice gel. It is the best thing to get. It doesn't bleed. It's a gel, and you want your Instaset or Zip Kicker, whatever you use. But trust me, if you're into statues and you figure you want to do your own repairs, get this stuff. So I have a piece of wood that, you know, I'm going to use for the Instaset. But what I like to do is take some of the gel glue, put a little dab over here, put a little dab over here, and then what we'd do is we have our rod, we have our Instaset. Make sure, you don't really need crazy amounts of Instaset, but we're going to go like this. Okay. That got screwed up there. Yeah, that didn't work too well. Alright, let's try this again. This is probably the wrong tweezers to use, but we'll get it. See, the gel comes out like a little gel. It does not bleed on you. but you want to keep sure you keep your Instaset away from the gel. There we go. Alright, so that's a good little start. Alright, I'm going to let that dry a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and mix up some of my Aves, and we'll come back, we'll build the wall, we'll touch up that one prong at the top, and then that should be set up for the day, and then tomorrow we could come back and rebuild. I like to space my stuff out. I try not to do my repairs all in one shot, because, well, I mean, in theory, I could build up a little bit of this wall today, walk away from it, and then do it up later tonight, because it's still, like, just after lunchtime, but by the time it's going to be, by the time the end of the day comes, I'll have probably even more residue and crap all over my hands, and I try not to touch anything that's already pre-painted. I'd rather wake up in the morning with fresh hands, not a lot of dirt, and kind of just work on it. So let's let this dry for a second or two, and then we'll mix up some Aves and kind of get onto that building of the inside wall. Alright, so it's been a little bit. I mixed up some Fix-It Sculpt, only because it's like basically a little bit of grayish white. I don't even want to mix up the red because there's really no need to. Just in case the way I paint this up. So all I'm really going to do is take this and sort of build out a little bit of a wall as best as I can. A little glue is sticking up, but that's okay. I'm going to probably tomorrow just hit it with a little Dremel and take down the glue. If I build up too much, I can, like I said, I could go in there and Dremel it down. It's not the end of the world. It just needs to hold, basically. Yeah, so little those two prongs of the glue sticking out. Alright, so I put a little too much in here. So you just got to kind of get it around. I'm just going to scrape some of it out. Trying to look underneath here. Yeah, underneath's fine. That's fine. Okay, so that's good enough for now. Really, like, there's no sense of playing with it forever. But like I said, there's a little spot. I don't know if you can kind of see it right here. The glue is sticking up a bit, so I'm gonna have to Dremel that down. A little bit of the glue here too, but it's good enough for now. Yeah, plenty in there to kind of sort of build up the texture tomorrow. So we're just going to let that sit, and then we're going to try to rebuild this part over here. Let's get this in the camera. I don't want to break anything. Let's kind of go over here maybe. There we go. Alright, so as you can see, I Dremeled out this area here. What happened was, like I said, I Dremeled it and a couple pieces cracked off. So this one, there's already a rod in there, so there's not much I can do with it, short of trying to pry out the rod. But it's better to sort of just kind of get some eaves around the edging and sort of rebuild what I Dremeled. I'm going to thicken it up a little bit, kind of cover all around it, to give it like a coat of Aves, per se. Because just kind of doing the inside is not going to do much. Let me... So you got to be very careful now with turning this, especially in the camera. Hold on, I got to turn it off over here. Alright, there's a little spot on this side that needs some. Between the goggles that I have on, with the headgear for the magnifying stuff, the camera, very careful with turning this thing. Very careful. once you get in there with paint and you touch it up, you really won't notice it. I mean, you can't always get everything 100% texture, you know, but at least we know it's repaired. Alright, so now that that's done, we're going to sort of kind of create a little bit of a texture. So let's see if I have any really crappy brushes that are sort of, yeah, so this one's kind of worn out. So basically what I'll do is I'll kind of just go in there with this thing. Let me pull this off of camera, get the other side. And that's enough to sort of get that cured up, and then we can go back and touch it up. You know, because you can hide things with paint. You can, you know, say it's like, you know, it's not perfect, it's not 100% perfect or whatever. You could go in there with paint too, and you can kind of dab paint on it, and you can create a little bit of an extra texture with the paint too. So don't think that it always has to be perfectly with Aves. There's always options to kind of play with something and repair it to make it seem like it's never been repaired. So now, you know, we have, whenever we mix up our colors and we touch up this area, then we touch up this area with a little bit of black, and we kind of blend it all together. So I'm going to go put this on the shelf now, and we're going to let this dry up for tonight. I'll come back tomorrow, and we'll start touching up and building this section up, you know, with the texture, get it to look as possible, let that cure for the night, and then after that we touch up with paints. So we want to try to get this done as fast as possible for the client, but not rush him to come and get it. I just like to kind of, I'm in like a repair phase. I got this, I got 2 other items to repair, so I'm kind of trying to get everything done in one shot. Okay, it is the next day, and I went ahead and Dremeled out a little bit of the extra stuff, so it's kind of like curved in. It doesn't look like it's curved in from here, but it's kind of curved in, so when I put on Aves, I could sort of match the texture. You could see some of this dust and stuff got chopped up. I'm going to work on this side, and then I'm going to work on the other side off camera, because if you look at the way this wing is, I can't really have the camera on this while doing it, because this is kind of curved this way like a bowl. So it's easy to work on this side, but when I go to do this side, there's really not that much there. I'm going to have to kind of hold it like this and do it like off camera, only because I might have to kind of turn, and it's kind of curved, and if I put this down on something, I'm afraid I might break some of these fingers. So I'm going to have to do this like really, really careful. But like there's really not much, and also I just see another spot here of some wear, so we got to clean up some of that wear. But yeah, there's not really that much to kind of match up over here, so I could get away with that. But this one here is what we're going to work on now. So I'm going to do a speed up video while I'm working on this, because I want to listen to some music while I try to match this texture. It's just a matter of putting some Aves in there, grabbing tools, and sort of match up this texture as best as possible. So the goal is to try to level it with texture as best as I can, not overbuild it where it looks like a glob on there, or not underbuild it where it's kind of sunk in. We've got to try to even out, and you really don't need that much Aves to mix up. So I'm going to be using, again, my Aves Fix-It Sculpt, because with this it'll work out fine. It'll be this color, and it'll be easier to paint over it, whereas if I use my red Aves, as you can see the red Aves, I would have to paint heavy over it. So it's better to have the white background with the Fix-It. There's really not much of a difference. I mean, there is a difference between Fix-It and regular Aves, but all in all, it's pretty good. So yeah, I just want to make sure that everything is nice and set up so I don't snap anything. So let me mix up the Aves, and then we're going to go ahead and do this, and you'll just see me just kind of sit there. I might have to sort of like turn it a little bit, lift it, make sure I'm getting the texture right, and to kind of just match it up as best as I can. Okay, it is the next day, and this is all seamed up pretty good. Oh, gotta be careful with these fingers. I went ahead and looked at it, and it seems to be matched up as best as I could here. I don't think I need to sand anything down. So now I'm going to try to mix up some paint. We'll get some paint on here and see what's going on. Now, this is not like just white paint mixed with some red. It's like almost like a skin color, almost. But this is a little too darker. But I also have this burnt sienna. This is kind of like an orangey red type stuff. So I have to try to sort of mix this up. So I'm going to sort of mix in my cup here, or just over here with some, this is just some skin tone. I'm going to dab some skin tone on here just to kind of see what the color is looking like. Just to see if this skin tone is sort of close. Somewhat. You know, I have white here, but I think mixing white into this is not going to work well at all, because mixing white in there is just going to cause issues. Sometimes, like, just skin tone and stuff is the way to work. So I'm mixing a little bit of the burnt sienna in with this red. I mean, not this red, the skin tone. And just seeing if it sort of starts matching, which it seems like it is. See, that's a little too dark, but then we'll mix in the skin tone again to it and sort of just mix it on the palette here. There is a little bit of black shading in there, and I can see it from the factory. So that might help me sort of blend it out. So it's we're kind of getting there a little bit. Now you always have to remember, paint dries darker than what's there. So we just have to kind of see how this looks, and sometimes you just gotta play with it. So I'm just doing a base coat on here just to kind of get some color down. And I'm trying not to go too crazy with it. So I'm just kind of looking at it, making sure it looks good. So like I said, there is a little bit of black in there. You know, normally if I was to paint this, I'd try to stay away from too much black, but this is factory. So that looks close to the base color. You know, the base color in there. So I'm going to hit this with the blow dryer real quick. Alright, so once it dries, it sort of kind of comes to the color, but it's still not quite there, of course. And we have to sort of build it up a little, just trying to gauge my colors. Alright, so let's hit it with some black dust first. Grab some, this women's makeup black dust stuff, so I'll use the paintbrush that I got, sort of sometimes you just gotta do your own little take on these little repairs. Alright, so going back in with the skin tone and sort of hitting it the top area a little bit. Almost like dry brushing up top, trying to kind of blend it out. Sometimes you gotta paint the repair too, you know, sort of kind of give it that little paint look. So like, you know, some of this texture you got to sometimes sort of paint it in a little bit. See, once you get the repair done, if you don't know where the repair is, you should probably never realize that it was ever repaired. That's kind of the goal. But I mean, of course, as the owner and me doing it, you know, you're always going to know where that repair is. But, you know, if you were to sort of, the goal is if you were to give this to somebody else and, you know, and they were put on their shelf and you never told them that it was repaired, they might think it was just, you know, part of the factory. And that's kind of the goal usually with a lot of repairs. It's just to try to make it look like without me and the person knowing that it was repaired. And repairs aren't always going to be perfect. You know, just the nature of the hobby. But if you can just sort of keep blending it out, you know, just kind of just go around the item, blend it. It's just going to look like a basic part of the wing. And like I said, it's hard to match texture, especially like this, because this is either a 3D print or was sculpted, but it's always hard to get this stuff matched perfectly. So you can see that's kind of where I'm at. Like I said, you guys can see, you know, where it is basically, but if you look at it far away and it's on the shelf, you probably won't even really notice it, you know? So this little black spot here is a little too much compared to a lot of the others. So we'll just kind of go back over here with some of the skin tone. Just take it down a bit. I'm lucky that this skin tone pretty much matches it. This was a darker skin tone I mixed up. I think it was for, if I'm not mistaken, this might have been the skin tone I used for the Lola Bunny. I think this is the bottle. I'm not sure. But, right, so this little black in here is a little too much. So we'll just kind of go in there, take that down. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm looking at it far away now, and it's looking pretty good. So let's take some of this down, because what it is, it's like reddish here, and then it goes to like a lighter color, and then back to that reddish color. So we don't want to go too light in here. We want to just kind of take it down, and I think that's pretty good. I'm going to hit it with some dull coat, of course, but you know, that's kind of just how you gotta you just gotta try to hide it the best you can. You know, repairs are always tricky. You know, if it was more in here, it'd probably need a little bit more of a yellowish look. But I have to do the other side now, but I'm going to do that off camera, like I said, because I got to be very, very careful with that area. And sometimes I'll have to use an airbrush for this stuff. But I think once I hit it with the dull coat, it should get rid of the shine, and that dull coat should kind of help blend it a bit. So I got to do this spot over here. So let's kind of do these two little spots. So this one has a little bit more of reddish, not too much. Take that down a little bit. Let me get my magnifying glass on. Sometimes less is more. So sometimes if you look really close at the item, just kind of dabbing some color over that little spot is better than slapping a bunch of like paint on it, because it's just a little bit there. So I can see those two little spots, that a little too much of the skin tone. So let's kind of hit it with the red a little bit more. What do you say? Oh, here they are. And then what I'll do is kind of just hit some areas around it and sort of blend it away. And you really won't even notice it's there. But we still got to hit it with the dull coat. And then we got this spot over here. And then we also have the one edge, I think it is. Then we got this part up here. So let's hit this one. This one's more the redder area. So just gotta kind of make sure it go in here. I think this side I might need a little bit of darker colors. Yeah, there we go. Alright, that has a little bit of, like I said, I hate using black, but we'll use some of the women's makeup. We'll mix this in with the reddish paint, give it a little bit of a darker color. So sometimes mixing the powder in with the paint doesn't hurt. Yeah, so that it's you could see it, but that's because it's the paints on it, you know. The paints on it. So let's kind of just go back over here. Let's see if I can. Gonna kind of this little black mixture I got here. We'll kind of hit some other areas around it, and I think that looks pretty good for that. So now, like I said, I'm going to do this side off camera, and then there's a spot here that needs some paint. So this has more of that black mixture on the edge a little bit. So we'll just kind of hit this. Try to touch this up for him as best as we can without slabbing too much paint everywhere. That little blackish powder that we're putting with the paint helps. Okay, so we did that, and now we have this area to kind of work on. Alright, so this has a little bit more of that black paint and powder. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this black powder, mix it back in here with this reddish burnt sienna, and we'll just kind of hit this area first, give it a basic color. Alright, so then we're going to hit this with the blow dryer real quick. Okay, and now I'm going to grab some black paint. Where's my bottle? See, one thing that you guys have to realize, factories pretty much, like if you see a prototype of a statue, those companies and those people are using a lot of different colors and washes probably, but when it gets to the factory sees it, but they're only going to basically do 2 or 3 colors. You know, they're not going to sit there and do washes on 1,000 statues, just unless you pay them crazy amount of money, but then it's going to be expensive. So, from what I can tell from this item, this is a basic coating of like this base color, this whitish yellow. And then what they did from there probably is it looks like it's probably spray painted or washed with a red. And then they did a little bit of this black like airbrush stuff. This looks like little quick airbrush things. And then they probably went back in there and they did dry brushing of black on here. So looking at it really closely, because if you get like one of these things, you know, looking closely, you could tell it's basically, even from the edge here, you can see it's just this basic yellowish, you know, base color. So this probably is airbrushed, You know, it's probably just airbrushed with some like really light washed orangey red and built in, and that's all they did. That's factory stuff for you. You know, factories don't make everything like crazy washes and stuff. Right, so here we're just gonna hit this with some dry brushing of the black, sort of blend it a bit. It looked like it was. We'll hit some other areas, just kind of a little bit of rubbing over here on this edging. If you basically get the colors down, it's really not that much to really go crazy with repair. Sometimes if you get the color wrong, that's when it gets pain in the ass to match up the colors. Because you start building and you start painting and you're not mixing the color right, and it just becomes a little bit of a hassle. But if you stick at it and you kind of mess with it, you'll get there. Don't be afraid to get your fingers a little bit messy. So that's good for that repair. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit it with some testers, not testers, dull coat, some of the Mecha Varnish flat color. Flatten it down, and then I'll see if there's anything in the lights I'm missing, because sometimes, you know, when your paint is wet and you start mixing it with the light, you know, looking at your light, you'll see like kind of mess ups. But if you flatten it, get it dulled down, make it look like the factory paint, you might start to see like, okay, it's working. So try to keep building up and getting from there. But I mean, far away, this is looking pretty good. Up close, I mean, yeah, you can sort of see the repair. But let me do this edge here, and then we'll come back, because I got to do this without the camera in the way. Okay, now that I hit some dull coat on it, I think I need to sand it down just a little bit. So we're going to sort of sand it down a bit, and then I'm going to have to touch it up with paint again. Like sometimes, like I said, it's hard to match texture. So let's kind of sand it down a bit. Grab a paintbrush. I think it curved a little too much, and that's bothering me. The other side looks okay. It's just this side that's bothering me. Okay, so alright, so we gotta touch it up again. So I'm going to do a fast paint up on this touch up, and then try it again just to make sure, because I think it was just kind of curved a little too high. But if I touch it up with paint and I kind of create that texture, it should go away. Alright, so I just went ahead and hit it with the dull coat. We're looking pretty good. I just got some black paint spots to hit, touch-ups, like on the fingernails up over there, on the other side over here. I think the other side of this, I just got to hit it with a little bit of light touch-ups with the paint, but all in all, we're pretty good. So when you hold it up, like, you can kind of see from that angle, you could sort of see the repair, but it's not really there. I mean, it's hard to match up, you know, texture. And the other problem I've learned with textures and this type of paint, you could sit there and keep touching it up and keep trying to blend it, and you might come to a point where you're overdoing it. You know, sometimes if you start trying to blend here and there and there and everything, you're making it look good here, but when you look far away, this part jumps out at you because you didn't blend this, you didn't blend this, you didn't blend this. So sometimes you got to just know when to stop and say that's as good as it's going to get. But I think he's going to be pretty happy with it. And like I said, looking at it at like that angle, on the shelf far away, you probably won't even notice. But like I said, you know, I know it's there, you guys know it's there, he knows it's there, but at the end of the day, it's not a big crack and you really won't pick up on it far away. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit with the touch-ups. I'm going to let this sit for a day. I'll come back tomorrow with fresh eyes just to see if I need to do any other touch-ups. The only thing I could think of is I might have to try to get this light color and just do a couple tiny dabs of that little light color to get that speckle, but it might cause more issues, so I don't know if I will. But like I said, yeah, it's hard to match and stuff. Alright, so I hit it with the dull coat, and I just want to touch it up with one little color. So this is a, squeeze out a little too much paint. So this is a random tan. I don't know, it's some little yellowish color. Not too much. I'm going to mix a little bit of the flesh tone with this. Get some of that base color going. And see, I'm going to hit it with a little speckle. I'll get my, this is kind of a very watery, little yellowish color. I just want to try to get a little bit of speckling in here because it's a little bit flat where I sanded it down. So I'm just hitting it with little tiny dots. Not too much. Gotta be careful I don't over. It's sort of recreating that little tiny texture with just the paint. Let's grab some of this. Yeah. One thing I always fear though is if you overdo it. Sometimes if you sit there and you're over touching it up and you're going crazy and you're blending it and you look at the item and you realize you went overboard in this little section because the rest of the sections don't match. That's always a fear. So sometimes you just got to know when to say that's as good as I'm going to get it without screwing it up. But since this has got speckling, you can sort of get some of these areas. Alright, let's go a little bit over here. I made a mistake one time when I was doing a repair where I was like, oh yeah, I'm blending this out, it's looking good. And I was blending this section out, and I didn't realize I didn't blend the other section. So this looked good, but it didn't match the other sections of the item. So I made a huge mistake, and I was kind of earlier on. So sometimes you just gotta know when to say, okay, that's it. There's no more. There's no more to. All right, that's looking pretty good. So I think just to be on the safe side, I'm going to do one last thing. Just to kind of blend it out. I'm going to grab some of my black paint and just kind of, sadly, just sometimes you just got to okay. So look far away. Yeah, I think that looks good. Yeah, so sometimes hitting with the black paint kind of just takes it down a bit. Alright, I think that looks good without going too crazy. Yes, I think that's about it. So I'm going to hit it with dull coat one more time. You look at it far away. Yep, a little bit of dull coat and we're good to go. So yeah, that's pretty much the repair. I'm going to go ahead and hit touch-ups with some black paints on the fingernails and some other areas. Make it let it dry for the day. Come back tomorrow with fresh eyes. And if I see that there is something I need to do, I'll just do it real quick. But that's pretty much it. Like I said, I can't really do too much more without really... And don't forget there's another wing too, and I don't have that wing, so I can't go crazy touching all this up. You know, so sometimes if you do that, you got to have both of them. I think that's pretty good. So yeah, I think you should be happy with it. We pretty much got it cleaned up. And that's pretty much the repair. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.